Okay, so when you are changing a fraction to a decimal, there are two ways you can do it. The first way is to put the denominator here and the numerator here, but if it's something easy, like 4/10, then you just do 0.4, because we already know that's what it is. If it's 40 over 100, then it would be 0.40. So for those ones, you don't have to do anything different for. Some of them are going to be repeating. Yeah, what's your question?
For the homework, is that a 38?
Yeah, this? Yeah.
Okay.
So repeating decimal means that it's going to be something that looks like this. That means the 3 repeats, so you just put a line over the 3. And a terminating means that if you had 1 over 25, you would do the 25 and the 1, and then you would add your zeros, and you would get 0.04. Terminating means that it has been ended. Repeating means that it's continuous, and so we don't have to keep doing the problems.
Okay, wait, can I see the homework page?
Okay, so all of these are, most of the homework on the pages are word problems. So for page 34 and 35, remember if it's a fraction and they're asking you to find a fraction of the fraction, if they have a whole or they have a fraction, so I'll just show it like that, and they're asking you to find a fraction of a whole or a fraction of a fraction, get this in your head for the rest of your life because it's confusing. It feels like it's division, but it's actually multiplication. If you're dividing something that's already divided, it feels like you would divide, but that's not true. So, for example, on page 35, number 1, each month Kelsey donates 1/5 of her allowance for school supplies, and 1/2 of that amount goes towards chorus class. Seems like it should be division, but it's multiplication. So you do 1/5 times 1/2 equals 1/10 of her allowance goes to help the chorus classes. So most of these, from what I could see, are multiplication, but you're going to ask yourself, are they asking for a fraction of a whole or a fraction of a half? If so, you're going to multiply. So number 7 on 34, there are 7 crates and each crate is 10 2/3 high. How many inches high are the stock of crates? You're going to do 7 times 10 2/3. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
Okay. Number page 37, a bucket that holds 5 1/4 gallon of water is being used to fill a tub that can hold 34 1/8 gallons. How many buckets will be needed to fill the tub? So for this one, does it seem like you would add, subtract, multiply, or divide?
Multiply.
So you can always try both things. So let's try 34 1/8 times 5 1/4, and then we'll try dividing and see which answer makes sense.
Wait, not multiplying?
So try both and see what makes sense to you. So if you divide, what would you get?
I don't know. I'm doing the multiplication.
Okay. So if you multiply, you get an answer of 179.16. If you multiplied, you would get 6.5. The question is, a bucket that holds about 5 gallons of water is being used to hold a tub that's about 35 gallons. Which one seems more reasonable? 179 buckets of that water or 6.5 buckets of that water?
6.5?
Yeah. So the good news is you can try both ways if one way doesn't make sense to you. If you go, feels like it should be division, that's okay. Do division and then check your answer and say, it is definitely not whatever. So if you thought it was multiplying, it would not work, right? So basically when you have a total like this and they're saying how many of these would fit in, then it's division. That's different from finding a fraction of a fraction. They're both fractions and you're finding a part, but they're giving you a total and they're saying how many of these little parts fit into the big part. Do you see how that is division?
Yeah.
So you can try both if you know, take a guess of what you think it is. Just take some practice to get to remember how to do it. Do you have any questions about that? Okay. So page 38, we're starting our algebra expressions, and they're giving us words. And so we have to find out, do you remember doing this last year? 5 less than a number. And so you would say, does the number come first or does the X come first? And it just depends on how it's phrased. So 5 less than a number, what do you think the answer would be for that?
5 minus X.
Okay, so let's look at that. Is this 5 less than a number or 5 minus a number?
Oh, X minus 5.
Yeah, so remember if you have the word than, less than, or more than, then the thing that happens first goes first. So it would be X minus 5. You have something, and then there's 5 less than that. So if it has the word than, check and see if it makes sense to flip it.
Yeah.
Then remember, divide it, we show as a fraction. And sum means addition. Product means multiplication. And then I think the rest are pretty similar. Any questions about that, darling?
No.
Okay. So the next page 39, the first thing for when you're doing a word problem is you ask, does it make sense to add, subtract, multiply, and divide? So I haven't looked at this, but I have a feeling that they are mixing up. Some might be adding, some might be subtracting, some might be dividing, some might be multiplying. So just check what makes sense. And then after you get your answer, so whatever you choose, you try that problem. And then you check your answer to make sure that it makes sense, just like we did in this one right here. So after you get your answer, suppose you got 5,000. Okay, do you think you could really buy 5,000 pencils for $22 or whatever? So you're always going to check to make sure. And if it does not make sense, then you do the opposite. So if you divide it, you're probably going to try multiplying. If you multiplied, you're probably going to divide. And if you've added, you're probably going to subtract. If you've subtracted, you're probably going to add. Does that make sense on how to kind of understand what to do? Okay, I'll stop recording. Why don't you try one of each on each of these pages from 32 to 39 now and see if you